Hero Party versus Vampire Princess. I don't know much about Sophia Keren. Not in this world, and barely more from our previous one. I know her old name was Shoko Negishi. I know that she stood out in our class, not the way Mirei Shinohara stood out, or even the way that certain quietly unapproachable people draw the eye, but in a different way. A way that made other people's cruelty feel somehow inevitable, even though it wasn't. I remember people used to call her Rihoko. Behind her back, real horror girl, shortened to a nickname, because she was thin and bony and always had a dark expression. I don't know who started it. I know it wasn't me, and I know that not stopping it amounts to the same thing. Whatever she was thinking when she was Shuko Negishi, she's something entirely different now. And whatever made her choose this path, to stand with the enemy, to help bring catastrophe down on people Julius fought to protect, I can't forgive it. So I draw my sword and charge. She deflects the strike easily. The broadsword she's using came from her shadow. Not shadow magic, something else. A skill I haven't seen before. A two-handed weapon wielded one-handed, with my full momentum absorbed like it was nothing. I land on my feet. My arm is numb from the impact. I already know I can't beat her on stats alone. Shun! Don't charge in alone. Katia takes her place at my side. Tagawa and Kushitani face off against Mera's office, the man who emerged from Sophia's shadow moments ago, who appeared from nothing and is now prepared for battle with the calm ease of someone who's fought in this exact configuration before. Miss Oka prepares her bow. Anna has finished her treatment. Horince stands ready. We're 5 against 1. Sophia finds this acceptable and says so. Miss Oka looses an arrow at her mid-sentence. A perfect surprise attack. No warning, no telegraphing, fired in the gap between words when Sophia's attention is distributed across the group. For a moment, it almost seems cowardly. Then Sophia reaches out and catches the arrow. She didn't need to catch it. Dodging would have been faster. She caught it because she had time to decide and chose the demonstration. Hyrinx charges. His shield rush is heavy, practiced, exactly the kind of attack that should break someone's balance. Sophia meets his broadsword with hers and doesn't move an inch. Katia and I follow from either side in the same breath. Then I'm on the ground, and I don't know how I got there. The pain in my hand comes first, then the understanding. Sophia swept all 3 of us with one swing, Hyrinx first, then Katia and me in the follow-through. Katia's rapier is in pieces. My sword held, barely. The shock to my wrist feels like something that should have snapped. She was aiming at our weapons, not us. I understand that. If she had been aiming at us, we would be in pieces along with the rapier. Ms. Oka sends more arrows. Anna casts magic. The arrows get dodged, one small movement of Sophia's head, perfectly timed. The magic cancels out before it reaches her, some nullification field that swallows it quietly. A half-elf, is it? Sophia's gaze drifts to Anna, something considering in her expression. I use that moment to charge again. She knows I'm coming. She doesn't care. I alter trajectory mid-swing, pressing the attack from a different angle because her broadsword is large, it can't turn quickly. And if I can make her commit to a defense, then flood her with fast, precise strikes. Her foot connects with my stomach. I didn't see it coming at all. Didn't see the wind up, didn't see her shift weight, nothing. One moment I was pressing the attack, the next I was airborne. And it's only Hyrinx catching me that keeps me from landing badly. Your aim's not bad, Sophia says, with the careless tone of someone assessing a training exercise, but your swordsmanship is far too prim and proper. You realize that leaves you open to dirty tricks like this, right? She's right. I've trained against monsters, against controlled sparring partners, against opponents who fight the way they're supposed to fight. I've never had to deal with someone who simply ignores the framework. I stand. My stomach is still throbbing. Katia catches my eye from where she's crouched on the ground. Something in her expression. I have a plan. Whatever shall I do? I know I'm supposed to kill all the elves except Miss Oka, but where do half-elves factor into that equation? Sophia says this like it's a mild, abstract puzzle. Like we're not here. Like her attention has genuinely drifted. I don't think it has. Katia completes her earth magic. I break into a run the same moment the ground shakes. Earth magic that moves the earth rather than attacking directly. It bypasses Sophia's nullification because it isn't targeting her. The tremor is enough to interrupt her footing, just for a moment. Ms. Oka's arrow comes from directly behind me, hidden in my shadow, invisible until it was past me. We didn't plan this. Miss Oka read the situation and acted. And Sophia, half a step off balance, can't dodge in time. She has to catch it on her blade. Hirince's shield hits her sword while she's blocking. A shield throw, not armor, a weapon. The weight of heavy metal thrown at full force hits like a cannonball landing, arrowing, and even Sophia can't fully absorb it mid-block. The broadsword is knocked out of her hand. I swing everything I have at her. My sword hits. You really should have gone for the neck just now, don't you think? She sounds mildly curious, not hurt. Looking at where I struck, her neck is covered in something hard and metallic, shimmering like dragon scales under the surface of her skin. The blade didn't penetrate. It felt like hitting stone. She kicks me again. Same result as before. Hirince catches me. This time I can't immediately stand. We found a perfect moment, coordinated, read correctly, executed. And it meant nothing. Magic doesn't reach her. My best physical strike won't penetrate whatever that armor is. If neither path works, what's left? I feel, for the first time, what true helplessness is. Machinations in motion. The stupid old man had been showing up every day to announce that she was his pet now, and she'd been staring at him in blank confusion each time. And he'd been taking her silence as defiance and throwing a fit. And this had repeated until finally he sent subordinates to grab her by force. She'd wiped them out, then wiped out the old man for good measure. The whole town was now in an uproar, because the old man turned out to be some kind of dignitary from Ohts, a country that had always had a bad relationship with this one, Sariella, over religious differences. Which meant Ohts' man had died in Sariella's territory. Sariella's divine beast had done it. This made it complicated. The logic from Ohts' perspective was essentially, your divine beast killed one of our people, what are you going to do about it? Sariella's was, your man tried to lay hands on our divine beast first, what do you expect? And then, you want to go? And then, bring it. She stared at the assembling armies and thought that this was the most half-assed reason for a war she'd ever heard of. Tens of thousands of people. 42,000 on Sariella's side, 53,000 for the Ohts alliance, roughly half the scale of the Battle of Sekigahara, when she thought about it. She'd been picturing a small skirmish. This was not a small skirmish. The crowd of people was already making her want to pass out. She'd never managed to attend one of those big summer or winter conventions in Japan for exactly this reason, and tens of thousands of armed soldiers turned out to produce similar anxiety at scale. But Sariella was going to lose. The numbers were too different. If Sariella lost, Ohts would still blame everything on her existence anyway, and she doubted they'd be worshipping her once they won. She'd also been used as a pretext. The old man from Ohts had been sent as a pawn specifically to cause an incident. She could tell by how quickly Ohts had mobilized afterward, armies already prepared and waiting. The lord of the town had been trying to avoid war. Ohts had been planning it the whole time. That made her angry. She launched into the air above the clash and fired wide-range dark magic at the Ohts alliance. The magic consumed roughly 3,000 soldiers in one shot. A gap appeared in their forces where people had been. The battlefield went completely silent. She leveled up, multiple times, rapidly, humans giving more experience than anything she'd fought before, while the silence stretched. One Ohts soldier started running, then another, then the retreat became a flood. Sariella soldiers came back to their senses and gave chase. Just as planned. She activated teleport. Something appeared before her. The cold recognition hit immediately. The presence she'd been tracking for weeks finally arrived. The Demon Lord Ariel, smiling pleasantly. Sorry to interrupt your fun. I'm going to have to ask you to die now, okay? The Demon Lord and the Administrator. The soul erosion had been progressing throughout the fight with the Earth Dragons. Ariel had known it before the battle started. The individual's parallel mind, isolated inside her soul since Mother's death, had been fighting from within, unable to stop, unable to escape, attacking the only way it knew how. She'd managed to function. She'd beaten Kyouya and his Earth Dragons. Magnificent fighters, truly, worthy of the reverence dragons placed in strength. I am satisfied, Kyouya said, and the light left his eyes. She looked at his body and felt something that took a moment to name. Grief was too large a word. Acknowledgement was closer. Another elder gone. The world kept producing endings. She began collecting the bodies to eat, then stopped. Have I always had this principle? The question startled her. She examined it and didn't like the answer. Her thoughts had been diverging. What had felt like external attack now felt more like merging. The parallel mind and she were becoming one, slowly, with neither side fully in control of the outcome. Which one are you right now? Gyuli asked, emerging from the shadows. She considered it honestly. Both and neither. Though I think I'm still closer to myself, mostly. Your tone more closely resembles the other, however. I know. She scratched her head. It's already been said that the parallel mind she sent over can't go back. And I still don't know how to truly kill the main body. It keeps reviving. It has teleport. I can't predict it. Even if I destroyed it now, I don't think I could return to my old self. Gyuli's expression was troubled. I have come to offer you something, despite the complications. He sent her to the battlefield. That was his involvement. After the battle, after abyss magic, he arrived at the spider's new body in the labyrinth. I have helped Ariel once, he said. I shall not interfere with reincarnations again. Here, these dragons fought for your sake and would wish to offer their flesh as well. The bodies of earth dragons materialized. She ate. She was very hungry and also newly small, and food was the most immediately relevant priority. Gyuli then asked her to stop the soul erosion, which she couldn't because the parallel mind inside Ariel was no longer under her direction. He asked her to live quietly and stop interfering with the world's events. She said no. He clarified that if her actions ran counter to his, he would oppose her. She understood. She hoped it wouldn't come to that. He left. The translation function he'd implemented, something that made his telepathy reach her in Japanese and converted her responses back, was remarkable. She would have asked him to make it permanent, but he'd already said it was beyond her to replicate. Something D had built, twisted into a new shape by force. Not designed. Improvised. She sat with the earth dragon meat and her new small body and thought about what it meant that gods could improvise. Spider versus Demon Lord versus Hero. The fight with the Demon Lord was defensive from the first second. Ariel had Divine Dragon Barrier active over the area, which meant no complicated magic, no teleport, and only simple attacks that the Demon Lord's resistances mostly neutralized anyway. The light magic shots she'd acquired from healing near town did exactly 1 damage per hit, which recovered almost instantly. She tried an earth magic wall to stall the charge. The Demon Lord ate it. Gluttony, a skill that lets its user consume anything, physical, magical, conceptual, and convert it to energy. An earth wall simply becomes SP. There was no countermove. Whatever she created became resources for the enemy. She got hit, launched across the battlefield, rolled through soldiers. The soldiers caught in her path did not survive being rolled through. Stats are the best, she thought, checking that she was still intact. The Demon Lord descended from the sky. She dodged the landing. The ground exploded anyway. The experience from the dying soldiers was keeping her level high enough to recover, but with fewer soldiers around at every moment, the math was trending badly. She needed to escape before the recovery stopped keeping pace with the damage. I am your opponent, monster. A child's voice. She turned because she couldn't help it. A small boy in expensive clothing, trembling but standing, sword extended. He was a hero. The appraisal confirmed it. Julius Zagan Analyte, LV14, stats excellent for a child, skills still developing. A child who had wandered into a battlefield between an ancient monster and a demon lord, and chosen to plant his feet. The demon lord had gone still. She searched wisdom. Hero. The hidden effect surfaced, temporarily grants the ability to defeat a demon lord. The demon lord was wary of a 700 stat child because of that hidden effect. She didn't know what ability to defeat actually guaranteed. It wasn't a certain win, but the ambiguity was enough to give even the demon lord pause. 3-way standoff. No one moving. A fireball landed from above. It didn't come through Divine Dragon Barrier, but the child didn't know that. He stared up in horror. The demon lord moved. Abyss magic. She knew what it was the moment she felt the beginning of the spell's construction. Magic that destroys souls, not just bodies. disintegrates the soul itself until reincarnation becomes impossible. Immortality cannot survive soul destruction. She couldn't escape. She took the gamble. The egg-laying skill she'd copied from Mother. The eggs she'd left at her old base in the labyrinth, between the middle and upper stratums. The parallel minds had been diverging from her since absorbing Mother's soul, feeling like other people living inside her, not comfortable, not ideal. She'd been wondering if she could transplant them into hatched eggs, give them their own bodies. She'd done something simpler and more desperate. She transplanted herself. The abyss magic hit. Her original body ceased to exist. Her consciousness arrived in a freshly hatched egg body the size of a tarantula, surrounded by rattling unhatched siblings in the darkness of her old home. All stats 3. The skill list was intact. The SP to use any of it, 3. Arachne Evolution was available. Level 50, the indicator waiting patiently. She ate earth dragon corpses and evolved simultaneously, in a race between SP consumption and SP restoration through food. It was close. She finished the evolution with almost nothing to spare. The new stats were extraordinary. The great Demon Lord title had appeared in the list. She was an Arachne now, half spider, half humanoid by design, and the stats that had recovered exceeded what she'd had before. She sat in the labyrinth with dragon bones around her and assessed the situation. The parallel minds' divergence had only grown. They felt increasingly like other people. She could turn the skill off, but that felt like killing them. She could leave things as they were and continue feeling like a committee. Neither option was ideal. She would think about it later. Taboo had maxed out when she revived Anna. Whatever the skill did, and she now knew what it did, the information flooding in at the moment of completion, that was a different problem for a different time. A terrible reunion. Sophia had been waiting for the right moment. She hadn't fought. She'd observed. When Schlain finally stopped being held up by high ranks and stood on his own, she spoke. "Anyway, I'd like to surrender. Think you could spare our lives?" He stared at her back. She felt his disbelief, understood it. She was never supposed to be the one to say this. But she'd assessed the situation from the moment she landed. Sophia's stats, Sophia's skill set, the magical nullification that meant Ms. Oka's arrows were the closest thing to a real threat, and even those Sophia was treating as mild inconveniences. There was no path to victory here. None. "So you can tell what will happen if you try to fight me, Sophia said. More or less. She kept her voice level. A dragon's intuition. She'd known since the capital. Since one look at Sophia and the immediate calculation, not this fight, not now. Shun wouldn't have listened if she'd said so. Shun needed to try, needed to believe the attempt was possible, and nothing would have overridden that. So she'd waited for the moment when the attempt had been made and the reality was undeniable. "Why didn't you stop your friends?" Sophia asked. "Even if I told them, Shun wouldn't have listened to me." She heard Shun's small sound, the impact of that landing home. She meant it kindly. It was just true. It's his pride as a man, basically. Something shifted in Sophia's expression. Less mockery than she'd expected, more thought. Life and pride. There are times when you have to fight for your pride rather than your life. A pause. "Very well. I never intended to take any reincarnations' lives here in the first place," she giggled. With her appearance in this world, entirely different from the bony, dark-faced Shoko Negishi of the old life, it made for a surprisingly pretty expression. Tagawa's battle-roughened voice broke in. "Well, thanks for that. Not that we asked you." Merazophis had landed at Sophia's feet, his body torn. Not blood from his wounds, black mist. A copy, it turned out. Not a real body, but a constructed double capable of genuine combat. Tagawa and Kushitani had fought a duplicate and still come away injured. How strong was the real one? "Please forgive my worthlessness." "You're always protecting me, Merazophis. Don't say you're worthless." Sophia's voice, gentle and entirely sincere. She'd learned more about those two from that exchange than from anything else in the whole battle. Then Tagawa and Kushitani stood to face Sophia anyway, and Shun extracted himself and stood. And she felt herself settle back into position, because that was that. Then the man who hadn't been there was suddenly there. Tagawa went down. Kushitani went down. Two practiced fighters felled in seconds by someone who moved like a blade held at constant readiness. His face, she knew it. Changed, taller, harder, two horns growing from his forehead that marked him as something other than human, but the face underneath was the same. The same gentleness in the features, the same calm tone, the same person who had been Kyouya and Shun's closest friend. Hey, it's been a while. Cool, so you do remember me. Kyouya Sasajima, 8th Army Commander Wrath of the Demon Army. Why? Shun asked, and the word carried more weight than it could hold. To destroy the elves, Kyouya said simply. If anything, I'm stumped as to why you're helping them. The sword missiles came later. Dozens of blades called from spatial storage and expelled at velocity, homing toward elves in the sky, each one exploding on impact. Not swords used as weapons, swords used as missiles. The elves had no counter. Ms. Oka was saying something about not listening to the administrators. She was right, and she was wrong. She was also watching Kyouya with something beneath her certainty that looked, for just a moment, like doubt. Light magic from the elves scattered Kyouya and Sophia, briefly. In the chaos, Hugo, who had been waiting on the ground while everyone else fought, rising with his sword toward Sophia's back. Damn it! Go to hell! You're still just stupid, Rihoko! The name hit the air like a match struck in a dark room. Sophia went still. Then the rage came off her in waves, cold, total, something she'd been carrying for years that was suddenly external. Hugo never reached her. A slim white hand closed around the back of his head. Something wriggled out of his ears. He fell. The girl who'd done it stood quietly, eyes closed. She made no further movements. White. Everything about her. White hair, white skin, white clothes, barely any color at all. Hyrinx's eyes went wide. She felt it too, the recognition, and alongside it the complete impossibility of the recognition. Wakaba. Hiiro Wakaba, who she had bullied through high school for things that weren't her fault, who she'd promised herself she would find and apologize to, who Miss Oka had told them was dead. It's been a long time, Miss Oka, the white girl said quietly. Miss Oka whispered, But how? No answer came. She stood with the memory of a razor blade in a desk drawer, and the knowledge that the apology she'd been carrying for years would have to wait a little longer, and tried to pass what it meant that the person Julius had died fighting was here, alive, and had just saved Hugo's life. There were no clean answers. The battle wasn't over. Resurrection. Newly hatched, newly evolved, newly an Arachne, she sat in her old home between the stratums, with dragon bones scattered around her, and a list of new skills she hadn't had time to read properly. Great Demon Lord, LV1, Hero, LV2, titles accumulated faster than she could track them, Human Slayer, Human Slaughterer, Rescuer, Saint, Savior, Ruler of Charity, Guardian, Human Calamity. She'd apparently earned contradictory titles at roughly the same time. The parallel minds were still diverging. She still hadn't decided what to do about that. The egg revival technique had worked. She was alive. The body was new. The stats were higher than before, and somewhere out there, Guli had sworn not to teleport the Demon Lord to her again. She had, she realized, survived everything so far by a combination of resourcefulness, stubbornness, and an absolute refusal to accept that being killed was the end of the story. She wondered how long that would keep working. Then she ate the rest of the Earth Dragon and decided it would work long enough. That was sufficient.